This is the Fitness Wisdom Podcast.
Hello everyone, welcome back to another exciting episode. Today I'm going to be talking about the power of red light therapy with the founder of EMR-TEK, Kris. Stay tuned until the end because there will be some discount codes as well for you guys to explore EMR-TEK.com for the best red light therapy panels on the market, blue light blocking glasses and circadian friendly light bulbs.
At the end of the day, for like EMF, it comes down to the best kind of bang for buck is making sure that your bed literally where you're sleeping is clean. And
Exactly.
so making sure where there's no like cell phone tower blasting you. Like I remember I had a place in Toronto, and the readings were incredibly high in my bed, so I literally put tinfoil on the back of my bed. And it's people say like tinfoil hat, blah blah blah, but tinfoil actually really does work to block radio frequency energy.
Yes.
So but then it's kind of hard to explain if you have like you're like, hey, like what's wrong with you? You have tinfoil on the back of your bed.
But if you can test it, and validly show it on a mirror, I guess it works,
Yeah. Well, yeah, absolutely. And I actually used to, before EMR-TEK started, the reason why my email still is EMR Protection Services is because I used to go into I used to have a business where I would go into like newborn babies, like families' homes with newborn babies, and test the electromagnetic fields like in the baby's sleeping area.
Wow.
And yeah, you'd be surprised. Like these babies are just getting cooked out there. It's brutal. It's so bad.
Yeah. I know, especially now with all the baby monitors and everything that's, wireless these days.
Yeah, they're actually horrible. But the other thing is like the electric fields coming out of the wires. There's the wiring that goes
Yes.
in the walls. Like the
Yeah.
baby's crib is usually pushed against the wall,
Yeah.
and that's like the main thing. And they're really like usually they're at the exact level of the infant, so it's kind of like that's a conspiracy theory in itself. Like who's trying to hurt these babies, man? Like with the
Yeah,
wiring. Come on, guys.
exactly. Oh, I mean, just these days, it's just not natural that we live in boxes, right? But I guess this is what we've built. We feel like we've done a good thing. I mean, we have progressed like so much, and it's great to have conveniences. But at the same time, we have done things that have harmed us, like knowingly or unknowingly.
hmm Yeah, I tend to agree with that. Yeah.
So, shall we dive into red lights?
Let's dive in. Give me 1 second. I'm just gonna fix myself a little bit better here so I'm more comfortable, and let's go for it. We can talk
Okay.
about a red light. We can also talk a little bit about UV light. 'Cause,
Absolutely. That's one
yeah.
of my last questions. So let's start from the top. For everybody who has absolutely no idea what red light therapy is, what is actually red light therapy or photobiomodulation?
Yeah, so red light therapy is, it's essentially it's a type of light therapy that uses red and near infrared light, primarily, I guess. You could use like infrared A light too, but yeah, it's primarily like wavelengths between 600 and 630 and like 1,000. There's three wavelengths specifically that are essentially the most biologically active. That's 630 nanometers, 670 nanometers, and 830 nanometers. So that's two in the red visible spectrum and one in the near infrared spectrum. And so essentially, these wavelengths specifically, they hit these wavelengths hit the fourth enzyme in the mitochondrial electron transport chain. They create a phenomenon called photodissociation. But basically what's happening is when these three wavelengths in specifically hit the fourth enzyme in the mitochondrial electron transport chain, they unbind bound nitric oxide. Oxygen is more effectively processed because oxygen and nitric oxide compete in the electron transport chain. So when you unbind nitric oxide, oxygen is more effectively processed. The net result is like increased adenosine triphosphate, or ATP. Most people know it is. That's chemical energy. That's what your cells use to complete their 100,000 plus daily tasks. And if you're deficient in chemical energy, I mean, that's what's killing people. It's called mitochondrial dysfunction. And usually the mitochondrial dysfunction or lack of ATP is coupled with inflammation, and that's the other thing that red light therapy does. So these wavelengths hit, they essentially enter the blood, and they modulate what's called soluble protein mediators in the blood. These are chemical messengers that essentially tell the body to go into an inflammatory or anti-inflammatory state.
Hmm.
And so when these wavelengths hit the blood, they modulate the cocktail of soluble protein mediators. Those are chemokines, fractalkines, cytokines. That's why, like you heard probably during COVID, like cytokine storm. It's like you get all these inflammatory cytokines, and they
Hmm.
basically like wreak havoc on your body because they turn it into a super inflammatory message,
Hmm.
um, for a good reason, because you kind of need it. But um, so essentially, these wavelengths, they turbocharge your mitochondria, they increase chemical energy, and then they modulate the soluble protein mediators in your blood and give your body a more anti-inflammatory message. So just to recap that all, the 80% of all the diseases killing people right now, type 2 diabetes, Alzheimer's, certain types of epigenetic cancers, um, um, heart disease. There's one more, Alzheimer's. There's more, but these are the diseases that are killing 80% of people. Fundamentally, they are from mitochondrial dysfunction coupled with inflammation.
Hmm.
So this addresses, really everything. We don't make claims on like certain pathologies. We're just not allowed to do that, but that's the science.
Yeah, but indirectly, pretty much, like if, the mitochondria are at the roots of health and disease, then it would make sense that we, do things that are actually targeting mitochondrial function, right? And this is why red light therapy is so powerful, because it literally targets the mitochondria, and the mitochondria love red and infrared light for the reason that you said, that it optimizes mitochondrial function. We have more energy, cellular energy, so
Yep.
now the body basically has more energy to do all of its biological processes. But when the mitochondria don't get the red and infrared light, what happens?
So essentially, like in layman's terms, like cellular process, if you don't have, you're running out of gas. So
Yes,
like essentially, the tasks will be like deprioritized because there's certain ones that like the cell needs to like literally complete to like not die.
right.
And so certain cellular tasks will get deprioritized. For example, like essentially like cleaning, like the cleaning out of like dead organelles and stuff like that. And after time, it just kind of makes like a cobweb in your cell, and you can have problems. That's not the only thing that like gets deprioritized on the cellular level, but that does happen.
Hmm. And how does red light therapy improve the exclusion zone water in our body, easy water?
Yeah, that's something, dude. People ask me this all the time, and I don't have like the mental capacity to store that right now. I don't have the data, so yeah, I'd have to like look at my notes and recite it. That's not something I have off the top, but it's a good question.
Yeah, yeah, and like, I mean, from my understanding is that, when we go through like cellular respiration and we make ATP, we are going to be producing this exclusion zone water, which is this
Right.
deuterium depleted water. And that's basically my understanding based off of other people that I have been researching as well.
Yeah, that's definitely like the call notes version. I used to go live with this guy called Carlos Stro, and he like makes it so complicated that I was just like, no. I'm like, I have too much information in my head right now. I'm like, I'm not taking this one on. So thanks for
Yeah,
that.
it's pretty tough, yeah, because like it's super interesting at the same time because you realize that your whole body is pretty much made up of water, right? And then how magnificent of a impact light actually has on water itself. And then if
Hmm.
we are pretty much made up of water, and how light impacts, the melanin and, in our skin, and how that's also impacting the oxygen and the water, and what's that doing to the water. It's super fascinating when you realize it's all intertwined.
Yeah, who would be amazing to talk about is one of my media guys, Dave. His name's Dave the
Oh,
Biohacker,
I
and like
know, Dave. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, he specializes in like water and easy water, and which is exclusion zone water. But it's essentially the exclusion zone water is more of like a gel-like substance. We actually make water. Our mitochondria make water, and it's like a jelly-like substance. Like, you can imagine, you don't have just like water in your body. That's not the kind of water we have in our body.
Yeah.
So yeah, and essentially, exclusion zone water like excludes like toxins from the body. So, or from the organelles and cells, I believe. So
Yeah.
the more exclusion zone water you have, kind of, the more you are protected from, like, heavy metals and all of that
Mm.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I have heard that like it's also beneficial for EMF protection as well, because the more structured your water is, the more protected your cells are from
Mhm.
EMF. But then EMF itself, non-native EMF that is, like unstructures the water, and that's
Mhm.
actually why a lot of the damage of the, well, of course, you've got the calcium influx into the
Yep.
cells as well from the non-native EMFs, but one of the other mechanisms is as well the unstructuring of the water, which leaves the cells more vulnerable.
Yeah, and also the main thing, the most important, so it does structure the water in your body, but then UV light also creates melanin,
Mm,
and melanin is super protective against electromagnetic fields, and radiation. So I was
mm,
talking to I was hanging out with Jack Cruz yesterday,
mhm.
and he at his crib in El Salvador, and he's like, dude, I think that if you took Usain Bolt, um, and you put him next to like a foggy, like, I think he'd be like fine because of the melanin and how like good
Yeah.
his mitochondria are. He like Jack even said he thinks that he could tolerate ultraviolet C radiation, which is crazy. Well, I mean, but I am actually not going to say crazy because Jack doesn't like when I say crazy. A lot of the stuff that he teaches is very complicated. So like the
Yes.
word that I use is crazy, but he'll always correct me. It's like, it's actually not crazy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyways, yes, it's melanin acts as a free radical sponge. So yeah, like it can absorb the reactive oxygen species induced by non-native EMF.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then basically like red and infrared light also reduces the reactive oxygen species. Or does it actually increase the reactive oxygen species in the mitochondria?
Yes. So that's interesting. So I think it can kind of depend a little bit.
Okay.
So there can be like a burst from photobiomodulation. There can be like a acute burst of reactive oxygen species.
Yeah.
But I think it will reduce it, kind of long term, while you're improving mitochondrial function.
I think so as well, because I was talking with Dr. Catherine Clinton the other day on a live, and she was actually saying how the reactive oxygen species, we tend to think of it as a negative thing, when in reality it's a signal from the mitochondria for the body to
Exactly.
respond accordingly. And if we are blocking that signal artificially through taking exogenous antioxidants or whatever, like,
Hmm.
supplementation, we may be hindering our body's ability to heal itself or to regenerate itself.
Yeah, I mean, I don't take anything. Sometimes like I'll take the odd vitamin C pack or something
Yeah,
like that, but just for energy, I feel like it like give me like a little boost if I've already had too much coffee or something like that. But
yeah.
I don't actually take anything. And I'm a huge proponent of the fact that we don't actually really like need too much, you know what I mean? In terms of other than being in nature. It's kind of crazy, the whole sunscreen argument.
Yeah.
All the DNA damage that they have witnessed is all with like isolated like ultraviolet light, just like
Yeah,
with UVA or UVB. So
so
it's like it's ridiculous to say that means anything, to be honest with you.
mm,
And on top, and to implicate the sun, because the sun has a wide, like the full spectrum of light, and these things counteract each other. Like blue light decreases melatonin. Red light on the opposite side um, increases melatonin. Blue light makes the mitochondria swell, reducing electron quantum tunneling, and thereby reducing like ATP production. Red
mm,
light shrinks the mitochondria, condenses the electron transport chain,
mm,
and increases ATP production.
mm,
And and it's just wild. Like, even like something so so obvious, or that, like, near infrared light is like penetrating way deep on the body. It's at this end of the spectrum. Ultraviolet light is at this end of the spectrum. It's short wavelength light. It doesn't penetrate barely at all. And actually, that's why when you go into the sun, you turn red, because ultraviolet light only penetrates like a millimeter into the skin. So the red blood cell mass actually has to come to the surface. It's called dermal pooling. You can pool 60% of your red blood cell mass into your skin until at that point your other organ systems would start failing. It would be the worst burn of your life, and it would just be horrible at that point. But that is theoretically possible, and that's why when you push on your skin, you can displace the blood. That's literally what it is. It's the red blood cell mass coming into your skin to harvest the ultraviolet light into your blood, and that actual harvesting happens overnight, which is why you wake up less red, and the light actually gets stored in your melanin patches, which is like moles, freckles, birthmarks, stuff like that. And just in general, we're like, just to relate the supplement type thing, I mean, supplements are a little less aggressive than sunscreen, in my personal opinion. I feel like sunscreen was like kind of made by the pharmaceutical industry to literally like just as like a money grab.
Yeah.
That's my personal opinion.
Absolutely.
Yeah, not EMR-TEK's opinion, just my personal one. But we don't have an opinion on that as a company. But like, you can get in trouble for like talking about like this kind of stuff, to be honest with you. But the truth is that if you're gonna, this is my opinion again, if you're gonna put on sunscreen, then that means that, one, you trust the pharmaceutical companies more than your own body. And I'll explain this, because if you understand how intricate your natural human sun protective mechanisms are, then, and I'm going to explain this in detail right now, then, and then you go and still choose to put on sunscreen. Let me just tell you that, I think if you understood it, you might not. So when UVB hits your skin, this is the what creates the erythema, or the dermal pooling, the reddening, the blood pooling into your skin to harvest the light. When UVB hits your skin, which is blocked by sunscreen, because that's why you don't burn, that's why you don't turn red, which is not a burn, okay? It's very misleading. It's not a burn. It's actually a natural phenomenon in which your body's harvesting light into your blood, which is absolutely necessary. Okay, so I don't know why they called it a burn. Let's like look at that a little deeper in a second. Maybe it was to scare people, right? Because I mean,
Yeah.
right? Okay, so UVB hits your skin, it triggers melanogenesis. I was actually talking to Jack Cruz. Apparently, UVA triggers melanogenesis and as well. But in the literature, Jack is a little bit farther ahead than the actual scientists. So I'm just going to cite the papers that most scientists in dermatology understand.
Yeah.
UVB stimulates melanogenesis. That's the formation of melanin pigments. UVB also gives a signal when it hits your skin to translocate or shift that melanin to the apex of the nucleus to shield the DNA, the nuclear DNA, from the UVA that penetrates deeper into the skin. And if you didn't have that the melanin forms an umbrella. It's called a supranuclear cap. Imagine my DNA, that my head's the DNA. And it's like a little umbrella shield. I literally have a picture. I've seen them on like electron microscopy. Microscopy. I don't know how to say that. And so, like I said before, melanin acts as a free radical sponge. The UVA is coming down. It's going to cause direct DNA damage. It's going to generate a lot of reactive oxygen species of free radicals, but that melanin barrier blocks it. And also, those reactive oxygen species get soaked up by this melanin umbrella shield, and it acts as a free radical sponge. And that's actually why you turn brown. Okay, when you cut an apple in half, the inside turns brown. It's exposed to oxygen. When the UVA hits the skin, it generates reactive oxygen species. It gets absorbed by the umbrella shield of melanin, and you turn brown. That's why you turn brown. Okay, and so you're gonna block that. You're gonna block that it's called the natural human photoprotective response. You're
Yeah.
going to block the generation of melanin. Then you're also going to block the translocation of that melanin to the apex of your nuclear DNA,
Hmm.
and you're gonna use sunscreen, which literally turns ultraviolet rays into reactive oxygen
Yeah.
species.
Yeah.
But okay, and so I mean, it's kind of ludicrous when you understand how, like, look, this system of photoprotection has been designed over, like, I actually don't know how long humans have been around. How long humans have been around, probably before that. And this system's been designed to deal with the X factor of life that created all life on this planet. Yet we think, for some reason, because we isolated wavelengths, it caused direct DNA damage in like cultured cells, that we're smarter and we're gonna apply, like, oh my God, dude, it's bad. It's real bad.
Yeah. Yeah, the thing is that, like, with human beings, we always think that we can outsmart nature. That's the issue, right? And because we have built so much technology and we feel like we've evolved so much that, that we can defy the laws of nature. And it's because we break the laws of nature that the majority of the population, or a big percentage of the population, is sick and unwell in the world, And so by
100%.
doing things like this, especially by manipulating the light frequency, by putting something on our skin which is altering the way that our body is receiving the light. Now we are receiving almost like a non-native type of light on our skin because we've altered the way that our body is receiving it. It's almost like sitting behind glass in a
Right,
way.
right. And think about it this way, like, when skin cancer started to rise, it was around the time we created artificial light. Now, just to like put the cherry on top of my point, do you think it could be from that light, the light that we invented? So we're manipulating the X factor of all life on this planet and we're thinking, no, there's not going to be biological consequences on our skin. No, of course not. It depletes like all the things that protect us from cancer, like melatonin. But of course, there's not going to be no. We're going to blame it on the X factor that created all life on this planet, made by, like, God or the universal spirit or whatever, nature. We're going to blame it on that. That sounds good. That's ridiculous. It's so
So
ridiculous.
you basically make, like, not only red light therapy panels, but you also make red light therapy panels combined with the UVB and the UVA. And one of the best things about that is that people are able to harvest or to get, like, vitamin D in the wintertime as well. And even people who are even afraid to get in sunlight, at least they have some form of supplementation, like supplemental light to use
Hmm.
in their life if they don't have time to get in the sun, or they have very, very busy schedules and they have no time, in the week, let's say, but only on the weekends. It's a fantastic way for people to supplement these beneficial light frequencies into their routine, right?
Yeah, I mean, just to like recap a bit, because we'll go live with Tina, I guess, soon.
Yeah, in
But
2 seconds.
just to give them like like your followers an idea. I had vitiligo. You can kind of see some on my thumb still there, but I had it all over my body. I repigmented my skin with narrowband ultraviolet B light. I had full four-door tanning beds in my room since I was 5 years old. I had to open the doors. I could barely open them, punch in a password, program the time. I went to 20 different doctors, finally found one through library research my mom did because Google didn't exist. In Germany, she was a PhD researcher, dermatologist, and I ended up repigmenting all the skin on my body minus my hands and feet because you just can't do that for certain reasons. But
Incredible.
um, yeah, so I've been using this stuff for a long time, and my devices are like the cream of the crop in terms of light phototherapy, photobiomodulation. I'm just here to stand 100% behind them. And if you
Mhm.
don't like them, please just send them back. We'll take them back. Yeah. No,
So
yeah,
yeah,
no questions asked.
I wanted to kind of ask you, like, yeah, what sets you apart from other red light therapy panels on the market? Why are yours the best and highest quality? I mean, I can say for myself, I've tried multiple red light therapy panels over the years, and yours are by far the strongest and most
Yeah.
powerful red light therapy panel I've ever tried. And even though it is the strongest, like I've got nothing wrong with that. Like I love it. I know some people, they say that, oh, like it's not good if it's strong and all this kind of business. And the only way to get a therapeutic effect is to be glued next to it or on it, But the thing is that, like, if you can feel it, if you don't obviously need to burn yourself, right? You even give instructions when you send the panels
Yeah.
on how to actually use it. So I feel like I'd
Yeah.
rather have a more powerful panel and be a little bit further away than have to be glued to it and think that, am I actually getting any benefit from it?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Then you're exposed to the electromagnetic field. There was the problem with this industry. They're just back to why our products are better. They're winning on every single variable, which is why my company is exploding right now. The variables are radiance, flicker, electromagnetic fields, build quality, just like general warranty, customer service. And we're literally winning on all fronts there. The reason that all the other, except one company, and I have a lot of respect for them because they're actually doing some innovation in the industry, even though I think there are some problems with it. I'm some actual serious problems with the ultraviolet lights that they're making, but I still got to give them credit because the reason that all these light therapy companies panels look the same is because they are the same. It's like shocker, right? They're all just like resold Chinese like products, okay? And we have cob chips integrated into the middle, so there's like most of these panels you see a bunch of like diodes, like
Yeah.
3-watt
Yeah.
diodes, maybe even 5-watt diodes, and so we have cob chips. It's called circuit on board. There's 64 of those 3-watt diodes. So there are 3-watt diodes on us, but we have 64 of these 3-watt diodes concentrated into a circumference of about an inch and then beamed
Yeah.
out with a cone-shaped 30-degree lens. It further concentrates the light. You can use it at further distance. You can use it at higher power. You have better treatment versatility, essentially.
Yes.
And
Yes.
we're actually the first company in the entire industry to completely eliminate the flicker with our new Pro Series. I've been disclosing how we've done it. It's with Meanwhile power drivers. You can look at the cost, just Google Meanwhile power drivers. But yeah, I mean, essentially the problem with a lot of companies saying it's a really volatile industry, and the reason why it is because all these products are the same. The only way they can differentiate their product is by putting other companies down, and unfortunately, that's where we're at.
Yeah. And the coolest thing is that you don't need to put anybody down because clearly your quality is like so good that people are speaking about it, and they're out there pushing your message because, you can clearly see from the build quality to the effectiveness of the product, like in the customer service, everything from the shipping, you guys are doing everything right. And when you do something right, then it shows, you don't need marketing, it markets itself.
That was what Elon Musk that was Elon Musk's thing with Tesla, and I heard that and I just went for that, and I appreciate you saying that because it's exactly how I think.
Yeah, I mean, they are super premium. Like, you check it, like, you take it out of the box and it's this beautiful, like, silvery color. It's just super premium. Everything about it,
Thank
it looks so
you.
stylish to have at the home. Yeah, it's great.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you very
Let's
much.
let's dash through a couple of more questions before we swap over to Tina that I wanted to ask you about red light therapy. So, how does red light therapy enhance healing and regeneration in the body?
Yeah, I mean, so essentially, it's there. There's two. We'll go back to the fundamentals. It improves mitochondrial function. It increases chemical energy. Your cells have more energy to complete their daily tasks. More gets done. The second thing is I'll use, like you said, healing. I'll use wound healing for an example.
Mhm.
Say you have a cut, okay? You have inflammation, you have acute inflammation. Red light is good at resolving acute inflammation specifically. So it modulates the cocktail of soluble protein mediators. It shifts the body into an anti-inflammatory systemic state. You don't even have to irradiate the exact location because it's through blood irradiation.
Systemic,
And
yeah.
the modulation, yeah. And so when it modulates the soluble protein meter, shifts the body from an inflammatory state to an anti-inflammatory state, that resolves the acute inflammation faster. You can get on to the proliferative and dermal remodeling phase much quicker. And yeah, you can like speed up wound healing by like 2 or 3 times.
Amazing. Thank you for highlighting that and elaborating on that. That's super useful. And how does it, like, improve testosterone production in men?
So I think like I've heard some people say they like tripled their testosterone with the red light. I mean, you'd have to be like clinically like hypogonadic to like actually triple your testosterone levels or like
Yeah.
like pretty like it just that doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. But you know, and I actually don't have any like anecdotal information about increasing testosterone either. But I have a ton of different stuff like improving eye health, like taking cysts away from. These are unsolicited from multiple medical doctors. The weirdest one was cysts going
Mm.
away. It's like a thing. It's a thing.
Wow.
But I think there's like Leydig cells. They have mitochondria. If you turbocharge the Leydig cells by shining red light down there, you know, potentially they're pumping out more luteinizing hormone and it's increasing testosterone production. That's my understanding. One thing you will notice, and please do not put the lamp super close, but they start moving up and down, and it's like a thing that happens with all guys, and it's super freaky. But don't worry.
Yeah, I always notice that there's always better blood flow always after I've done my red light therapy. You know, it's just also that vasodilation that you get in the system as well, right? So it's super great for that.
It also stimulates angiogenesis, which is the formation of new blood vessels. So
Wow.
you know that can help with so Jack Kruse has a term that I remember is like wherever energy in quantum biology, wherever energy goes, blood flows. So like if you like hair loss, for example, that's one of the reasons I made my first light like 6 years ago.
Yeah.
I was having some hair loss. The reason is because it's the hair follicle dies because it gets cut off from blood flow. And you know, I just sit there with my light, and you can feel after, because it's like almost like when you take it off, it's kind of cold, like the blood's like going out
Yeah.
again. You can feel
Yeah.
that there was blood draw, and to
Yeah.
the point where sometimes there's even like a pulsating feeling. But on top of that, it's stimulating angiogenesis, which is the formation of new blood vessels. So it's acutely addressing the problem, and long term, it's going to improve the problem.
And the cortisol itself, like, is that the actual thing that is preventing the blood flow, for example, to the surface? Do you think like if someone is like super stressed out, you know, because how cortisol elevation or stress in general like reduces blood flow to the surfaces?
You know, I think it depends on which surface. For hair loss, it's probably DHT, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm actually not 100% sure how cortisol interacts with blood flow. So that's interesting. I actually didn't know it did, but it obviously does.
Well, I mean, to
Just
some
so much
extent,
to
I
learn.
think yeah, I think it's a really fascinating like thing to learn, and I think we'll dive deeper maybe on this in the future. And I'll let you
Absolutely.
now move on to Tina's life, so she doesn't need to be like waiting. But thank you so much, Kris, for coming on, and I really appreciate it. And for everybody listening, like right now, EMR-TEK has a Black Friday sale on, and so if you use the code Mobility Fitness, you'll be able to get a massive 30% off the best red light therapy panels, blue light blocking glasses, and circadian friendly light bulbs on the market. And even after the Black Friday sale has finished, you can still get 20% off using the same code. So appreciate it, Kris. I would love to do it again in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you, Andreas. I appreciate you having me on.
This is the Fitness Wisdom Podcast.